Previously, Takahiro had just insisted on moving into the loft immediately, even if it meant losing the free rent promotion. Now we see what he really plans to do inside that tiny apartment. The realtor looked at him like he's kind of crazy, but okay. He lets him sign the papers and gives him the keys. Now, Takahiro is standing in the main living area, staring up at the loft that's 6.5 feet above, staring at the railing. It was perfect. Allison was going to die here. I mean, that wasn't the original plan. The original plan was to keep Allison around so that she could finance his whole life. His original plan was, and I quote, "I wanted to get as much as I could get. I wanted it all. Her money, that is." But he felt like he had no choice now. Allison was starting to pull away from him, and he could. He had this suspicion that she was seeing a new boyfriend, which that only means one thing. If Allison has a new boyfriend, she's going to want her money back, and she's going to ask Takahiro to pay her back the $4,500. And he can't. He said, "I thought about how I could avoid paying her back, and I decided I just had to kill her." Takahiro would commit his first murder over $4,500. Once he was set on his plan, he started searching online. How to kill, how to dismember a human, how to dismember a cow, how to dispose of a body, how to destroy the evidence. Takahiro went out and he bought a saw. He invited Allison over to visit his new apartment that she paid for. And side note, Takahiro was searching online how to dismember a body while he was waiting for Allison to arrive. He hears a knock on the door. He quickly exits out of the browser on his phone. "Come in, come in." She walks in. She's looking around. I mean, it's a small space, but it's kind of cozy. She's looking around. No, it's really nice. Very nice. Takahiro nods and is like, "Sit, sit." She sits down on the main room couch. So this is the first floor, not in the loft. And he pours her a glass of alcohol. Mid-conversation, he just gets up. She has no idea what's going on. He just gets up, mid-conversation, walks to the front door of the apartment, locks it, chain locks it. Immediately U-turns, takes like 5 big steps towards Allison, and just starts groping her chest. Out of nowhere, Takahiro said he always wanted a surprise attack like this. But when she resisted his advances, that's just when something came over him. He liked that she was resisting, so he fully attacked her. He pushed her down, completely wrapped his hands around her neck and started choking her. Allison was fighting back, hard. It took Takahiro 5 long minutes before Allison lost consciousness. He essayed her unconscious body and he said, "I originally did it because I haven't been active in a while." But he said he ended up surprisingly really loving it, to the point where the idea of regular consensual relations was never going to do it for him again. He then proceeded to tie her arms and legs together with long cords that he prepared. He wrapped a rope around Allison, and then the other end he had in his hand as he went up the ladder, wrapped it around the railing and started playing tug-of-war. He climbed up and he pulled until Allison was in a standing position, and eventually a floating position. She was still alive at this point, but with that action her airflow was gradually being cut off. Takahiro, when he secured the rope, he ran down to the main floor and he just watched from below. He saw her convulse. Then she urinated on herself, which typically, lack of oxygen to the brain makes it unable to control the muscles that are normally holding in the urine. And he sat there for 30 minutes until her body became cold to the touch. He sat and watched all 30 minutes of it. It was like a mini performance in his own apartment, he said. For those 30 minutes just watching, I have to admit my heart was beating very fast. Even though I wasn't even exercising, and he had this brief moment when he realized, "Oh, she's dead," he thought. "Oh my gosh, I've done something very bad." But it quickly turned into, "How do I not get caught?" So he took her body down, moved her into the bathroom to, quote, dismantle her, because he knew it wouldn't be good to wait any longer. He read online articles that bodies decompose faster than you would think, so he wanted to get to work immediately. He felt like it was only natural to, quote, cut off her head and drain the blood. So he put her on her back, stared at her face as he got to work, and he got really descriptive with it. But he said, the process of that. He said, you know when you shake a Coke bottle and you open it and it comes gushing out? That's how the blood came out of the neck. Like you turn on a faucet upward and let the water just come up. At that moment, the side of that is making Takahiro dizzy. He's starting to get this raging migraine, but he's like, I gotta continue. He said, quote, the image, the smell, just wow. Still, I knew I had to do it or else I would get caught. He parted the head from the neck and started draining the blood. He stated he cut off the shoulders. Then he severed the wrist and the hands from the rest of the arm. He parted the rest of the arm in half at the elbows. He filled the tub with water and added fresh bath salt, and, quote, left all the body parts floating in there. He was about to start on the legs, but he said that he reached his limit mentally and he knocked out. And he describes it as, quote, sleeping like a log. He woke up in front of Allison's dead body, and even now, staring at the floating corpse in the bathtub, he thought all of it was worth it. When he wakes up, he immediately starts working on the lower half of her body. And he said he kept thinking to himself, motivating himself to keep going. I just have to do this today. I just have to do this today. He finished up dismembering the lower half and started to, quote, cut the skin and remove the meat from the bones. He placed all the meat, organs, and smaller bones into pee-pee pads, like the ones that you would get for your pet. He wrapped them up, shoved them into a Ziploc bag. Then he got the Ziploc bag, wrapped that in newspaper, and then threw them away in a black trash bag in his apartment building's trash can. That was the method he used. But that's just for the organs and a lot of the big chunks of flesh. And that worked for him. Wow. Most of the bigger bones of the body were left over, including the head. He wasn't entirely sure what to do with those parts yet, but the main problem that Takahiro had at this point, he said, was the smell. It was getting worse by the hour. First, he did some research on his phone about odor elimination, and he looks up just, quote, rotting smell. And he ends up getting a ton of results for bleach, cat litter. So he starts trying them all. Takahiro even tries to buy this sterilizer that's typically known to sterilize kitchen utensils and cutting boards. I believe it's restaurant grade. And the sight of dismembering a body, living with a corpse, none of that was as annoying as the smell, he said. But the smell was just so strong. I mean, it was overpowering. It wouldn't leave, Takahiro said. The smell was actually the worst from the internal organs, that, when you cut open the stomach, that's when the smell is the strongest, and it comes out immediately. And he stated each one of his victims smelled differently. He said he's never smelled anything like that in his entire life. With Allison, it took him 2 days to, quote, dismantle her body. He said he had to take a lot of breaks to just get away from the smell, and then come back to it. He said it was such an overwhelming scent, but even that, it didn't compare to the fear of getting caught, so he kept going. He purchased a single-sided saw, 2 kitchen knives, a knife sharpener, a pair of scissors. He used the scissors to cut the skin, and he said, I didn't know this until I did it myself, but he Human skin is unexpectedly hard. It's thick, difficult to cut at first. I tried to use a knife, but it didn't work. It was easier to use scissors. I looked up the dismantling method on the internet, and I did what I researched, and I did it in the bathtub. So, these are all from him telling this to who? Mr. Ono, the author. And some of it he told the judge during his trial, later. It's like so detached. No remorse. No, this is just the beginning. Just you wait, he said. I scraped the meat off the bones. I boiled the bones in a pot, and then I added some kimchi hot pot stock. I thought I would deodorize it. You know, sometimes he cooked a Japanese curry into it to mask the smell some more, or other times it was a Chinese stew. He would later state that it was just to help mask the smell, but Takahiro's phone would show results for precautions when eating human flesh, ? Oh my goodness. After boiling the bones, to be able to strip them of the flesh, he added the bones to kitty litter and then played Tetris with them. He would buy these boxes. He talked in depth about how he was focused on limiting the amount of boxes in his apartment building, so he wanted to Tetris the bones so it could be a smaller box for all of Allison's bones. So he's doing all of that for his first victim. Tahiro said you'd be surprised at how light the bones are once the meat and fat are removed. He stated they're very, very light, but since the meat and fat have nowhere to go, he would again grab some PP pads, wrap them in newspaper, and then throw them away in the downstairs apartment building dumpster. And once he's through with Allison's 2-day dismemberment process, he just had one big question. I mean, is he going to keep the box of bones? Is he going to keep the severed head in his tiny little loft forever? He starts Googling how to dump bodies, but he realized that the highest risk of bodies being discovered. He's studying all these other killers, and it's usually when killers are on their way to dump the body that they get caught, or they're actively digging a hole with the shovel in the show up. I mean, how is he going to talk his way out of why he needs a human-sized hole in the ground? But Takahiro's biggest tear was, he's very nervous that a dog would come sniffing in the mountains and dig up the buried body that he worked so hard to bury. The best choice to get the body out of his apartment, he decided, was to rent a storage unit and keep the body there. But he never got around to it, because there were things higher on his priority list, like Allison's best friend Charlie. When Takahiro asked Allison to finally meet up with him in person, before he bought the loft, before Allison ever gave him any money, they were just Twitter friends. Allison was really hesitant. I mean, they're hitting it off. Yeah, they're bonding. He seems nice. He seems relatable. They seem to have shared life experiences, but at the end of the day, this is a complete stranger. So she brings her best friend Charlie, and he's there to make sure nothing's going to happen to Allison. He's going to get a good gauge on Takahiro as a person. Charlie was incredibly protective over Allison. Charlie, too, was struggling with a lot of dark emotions, and Allison to him was almost this symbol of hope, even though she was experiencing it. Allison was always the giver. That's her love language. She would give gifts. She would give her time, her energy. If she didn't have the money, she would give money. She would give everything. She would give so much of herself to the point that she would have nothing left for her own individual. Same with love. She always gave out love, never saved any for herself. Which is why Allison was struggling a lot with mental health. And it didn't help that she was bullied a lot growing up. And she just had all this lingering trauma and emotions and insecurities. And Charlie was there to make sure that Takahiro was not going to take advantage of Allison. So, all three of them, they meet up at a park. They actually get along very well. Charlie felt comfortable with Allison being friends with Takahiro. Takahiro was just, He seemed, I wouldn't say charismatic, but it's almost, you know, when you meet someone and you have so many things in common with them. You're like, how did we not know each other before this? We're like twins. Like, how do we have the same life experiences? To the dot. It's kind of crazy. I'm like looking into a mirror right now. But that's not true though, right? No, Takahiro would mirror every single one of his victims. Oh wow. He would just relate to every single thing he said and fake stories that were the basic principles of what they are talking about. Just in a different way. But now, Charlie's best friend, Allison, has not been picking up her phone. And Charlie has been worried sick. Allison's mom is blowing up his phone, and he gets a text message from Takahiro. And then another text message. And Takahiro is randomly just like convincing him that things are never going to get better. Especially because Allison is missing. And Charlie is getting influence. He started having negative thoughts again. And he had always struggled with them before, but it was only getting worse now. And Takahiro texted him, "Do you want to hang out? Meet me at the train station. But throw your phone in the ocean first, just like Allison." Charlie wanted to find comfort in Takahiro, but he also wanted a backup plan, so he tweeted. This was his very last tweet. For a brief moment in this life, I experienced something happy. Then he threw his phone in a train station locker before heading out to meet Takahiro at his loft apartment. And, just like Allison, his phone would be found in the train station. Just not by Charlie. The speakers in Takahiro's apartment were playing a new Nirvana song. But Takahiro was barely listening to the lyrics. It goes, "I am my own worst parasite." But Takahiro is busy. His arms are straining as he's trying to drag this heavy lump across the floor. A lot heavier than anything that he's ever moved across this apartment before. Takahiro grabs the rope from underneath his kitchen cabinet, makes a loop with one end of the rope, goes back to the body, and he's thinking, a woman is a lot easier to move than a man. And his muscles are telling him, like, don't do it. Don't do it. It's so painful. Takahiro grabs the other end of the rope and climbs up the ladder, and he's now standing over the railing of his loft, pulling as hard as he can. Playing tug of war. He's trying to lift Charlie up into a standing position. His arms feel like they're about to pop off, and it doesn't help. Once he feels Charlie starting to struggle on the other end of the rope, he's awake. Once Charlie is at least standing, he hooks the rope to the railing, and Takahiro climbs back down the ladder and is staring excitedly. Charlie has duct tape over his mouth and nose, and he's flinging his body around, and he's floating in the apartment, trying to break free. His arms are tied together, and even though this wasn't his typical choice, Takahiro was enjoying it. It would take a full 30 minutes for him to become cold to the touch. Once he is, Takahiro checks Charlie's pockets, pulling out the little cash that he had, and pockets it. He also checks to see that Charlie has no phone. Good. Perfect. It's probably in the ocean now. There's going to be no way for anyone to connect Hiro to him, or Takahiro to Allison after all of this. Takahiro was starving, so with Charlie now in the bathroom, waiting for the dismantling ritual, if you will, Takahiro sat down with a bowl of spaghetti and steamed chicken from the convenience store. And eventually, he would pass out, sleeping.